So shall we start? Okay. I will keep my screen not in full display mode because I'll not be able to see people who are entering the session. So I'll keep in such a manner that I can have a watch on that. Okay. Now, is it my screen is visible? Yes, you're able to see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, learning is a process by which an individual acquires a knowledge or experience to be applied in future a reaction to a situation. Learning from a particular phenomena depends upon one's personality, perception, motivation, and situation. The learning process involves a motivation, response, and reinforcement. Okay. Now, here, what this is a very general term. Okay. Normally, if someone wants to learn something, there are many ways in which a person can acquire that knowledge or experience or that skill. Fundamentally, what we know about learning is, when you start admiring, okay, or when you really um, get influenced by something, automatically you start the process, or it automatically triggers the process of learning. So what is the uh, triggering factor to learn something is, if you are well admired, or if you've been well influenced or fully convinced, and have a full conviction that this thing I should possess, that is the triggering point where the learning process starts. Obviously, it is depending upon one's personality, it depends upon one's perception and their area of interest. So many other factors also been connected with learning process. Okay, so in general, what we have to understand here is, uh, I will tell you, there is a permanent change in behavior. We call it as learning process. Okay, suppose if you learn something and you tend to forget after some months, then we won't consider that it as a learned thing. Okay, let me give you one small example. So quite often we'll be conducting so many online program, and some of the program will have a certificate as well. So after the completion of that program, we will send a feedback form, and that feedback form and the participants has to fill it. After filling it up, when they submit the button, the Google, um, the Google from the Google form, automatically a certificate will be triggered and it will reach to the participant's email. But for doing that, you need to carefully, follow 5 to 6 steps. Okay. Though I have done it quite 2 to 3 times, but still, day before yesterday also I was doing that. Still, I find I'm not so comfortable in doing that coding, that mapping, all those things. Uh, so though it's a very simple task, but we are not. I'm not able to get it fully. Okay, so that is not fully learned process, because when you are going to, if you are able to perform without any problem or without any interruption, then we call it a learning process. So learning process, how to define a learning process is that doing something without any hesitation, or without any get got should not get stuck in between, and you should not forget. It should have a permanent change in behavior. That is what here the definition says about it. That is a relatively permanent change in the behavior is what we call it as a learning process. Okay. So, learning can be defined as relatively permanent change in behavior, potentiality that result for reinforcement practice of experience. So, again and again, if we reinforce, we can have that. So, definitions by author Haggard, learning takes place if an individual reacts, responds to a result of experience in a manner different from the way he formally behaved. So, here altogether, when there is a transformation is taking place and that transformation is quite permanent, then we will assume that we have learned something. Okay, so we'll see what are the process of learning. So learning invariably involves a change through not necessarily improvement in behavior. Learning may be good or bad from an organization point of view. Some are example like bad habits, prejudices, work restriction may be learned by an individual. Now, there are many, behavioral, highly contingent habit we have. We can easily get contaminated by others' behavior. We can easily learn that. Okay, without even realizing that we are learning such things. Probably, very quiet habit what you can find in an organization is that when people are closely associated, you will get some of the habits without knowing that you've been involved in such habits. For example, taking we cannot say it's a bad habit, but we can acquire some habits like going for a tea. Okay, what happens is that when you are closely associated with people, and at 10:30 and 11 o'clock, you want to have a small break, but you're not used to have a tea at all in your previous workplace. Now in this new work environment, there are set of your team members are going, and you have to accompany with those people. And you all know that if anything you do for 21 days, your 22nd day it becomes a permanent habit. So here you can learn uh, things by just involving with the people. Okay, so this is the process of learning. We'll see it very in depth. Okay, the process of learning is change in behavior must relatively permanent, which we have already seen. Change behavior should occur resulting in experience, practical or training. The change may not be evident until a situation arises in which new behavior can occur. Anyone, if someone is waiting lobby, let me uh, just tell me so that I don't leave them behind. So here we have theories of learning. Okay, there are four theories which explains how an individual learn a new pattern of behavior. So here so this is very important. One second. Classical conditioning, operant conditioning, social learning, and cognitive learning. These are the four fundamental theories we have when someone wants to learn it. Now, what is conditional training? Classical conditioning. Okay, so this classical conditioning is, been introduced by Ivan Pavlov, a famous Nobel Prize winner, a psychologist. Okay, in the 20th century. Okay, so classical conditioning says that you can learn something uh, by stimulating. Okay, uh, this case is quite very, um, almost many people know about it. You should have heard this case, and you would have learned this particular case in many occasion also. So I will just explain what is this all about. So this the famous Nobel winner, what he psychologists have done here, he has a dog. Okay, then when he gives a meat or food, particularly meat, when he gives the dog, immediately the dog starts salvaging. Okay, and in one case, what he did, he just rang a bell, but the dog didn't salvation. Now he wants to create a theory so-called classical conditioning. You can learn something by responding to a particular task. Okay, let me put it in a very simple terms. Here, the classical deals with the association of one event with another desired event, resulting in a desired behavior of learning. Pavlov conducted an experiment on the dog to study the relation between the dog's salvation and ringing of the bell. Now, ringing of the bell, it has absolutely nothing to do with food. Okay, but when you are giving a food, that is the meat, and you are ringing the bell at the same time, the dog is, have a capability to learn from the bell sound that it is going to get the food. And though the meat has instant, of, the hunger and the desire to eat, but when you associate a bell with that, and without giving the meat, you just uh, rang the bell, it got salvaging. So here what we are able to understand, that you can learn something by stimulating. Okay, and a simple surgical procedure helped him to measure accurately the amount of saliva secreted by the dog. When the producer presented a piece of meat to the dog, he noticed a greater deal of salivation, and when he started belling the ring also, the dog started salivating. So this is a typical uh, case study for classical conditioning. So here we'll just I will read the entire passage so that you can understand it in much clearly. Okay. So here, learning through classical conditioning was the first studied by Ivan Pavlov, a famous Nobel Prize winner psychologist at the 20th century. CC theory, that is conditional classical conditioning theory, deals with the association of one event with another desired event, resulting in a desired behavior of learning. Okay, so Palwan conducted an experiment on a dog to study the relation between the dog's salivation and ringing of a bell. A simple surgical procedure helped him to measure accurately the amount of saliva secreted by the dog. When the Palwan presented a piece of meat to the dog, he noticed a great deal of salivation. He turned the food unconditionally stimulus uh, and the salvation. Uh, an unconditional response with the dog saw the meat is salivating during the second stage of balance, nearly rang a bell. So he introduced the rang of a bell. and subsequently introducing the sound of the bell each time the meat was given to a dog. Thus, the meat and the ring of the bell were linked together. The dog eventually learned to salivate in response of ringing the bell, even when there was no meat. So, you can learn something without the actual thing is there. Okay, so uh, when our mind have a capability to connect the things. Okay, now many people are used to have keeping alarm. Okay, in the morning. Okay, so in what way it helps us to accomplish our objective of getting on time is as similar to this classical conditioning. When you have an alarm at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, when it rangs, automatically you psychologically your brain says that it's time to get up, and psychologically you're getting a mood of you're getting you are ready for the day. And this all the psychologically effect happens, and you'll start learning things. Okay, now the second type we have here is apparent conditioning. So this behavior is uh, doing something by a reward. Okay, and not doing something when you're getting punishment or not favorable experience. So normally here what we conclude in this theory is, whenever we are getting some motivation or appreciation in a positive manner, the doing for doing that particular event is much higher than doing an event of not pleasant thing. For example, taking your injection. Let us consider your COVID-19 vaccination injection. It is little bit painful. Okay, so obviously we are not happy with the vaccination. So we will hesitate to repeat that particular task in upcoming future. But when you have a very good food in a hotel, or a very good cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and you're fully happy with that particular event, the chances of doing that again is much higher. That is we call apparent conditioning. Okay, so you will just go through this. This defines a behavior that produce an effect. Operant condition is based on work of B.F. Skinner, who advocated that individual exhibit a response that are rewarded and will not exhibit a response that are either not rewarding or are punished. Apparent conditioning, also called an instrument conditioning, refers to the process that occurs, behavior, procedures, certain consequences, how we behave in future will depend on what those consequences. If our actions have a pleasant effect, then we will be more likely to repeat them in future. If, however, our actions have unpleasant effect or less likely to be repeated in the future. So obviously, uh, I wonder why some people uh, don't perform at all in a classroom or any given situation. So the main thing what we can learn from this apparent conditioning is that those people have apparent conditioning is not properly effectively taking place. Here, every person should be rewarded for doing even small things. It has to be appreciated. Okay, just even a word of you have done a best thing, or just tapping your hands or clapping your hands, tapping his shoulder. It's a small appreciation will surely help a person to move forward. Okay, when after when one person is accomplished many things and there is no reward. In fact, if they say you have, because in an organization normally what we see is that the person who is initiating something new or doing something which never has been done before, normally the chances of making mistake will be much higher side, because he's trying to do a new thing, right? Obviously you cannot learn anything without doing a mistakes. But in an organization what will happen is that the mistake will be projected rather than the initiative what was taken by that particular person. Here, this apparent condition have a ill effect, or it has an adverse effect on the person's upcoming performance. So you should have seen some person in organization as initial stages, they would have performing very well, but after some time their performance will be highly compromised, uh, because of not proper appreciation has been given, or there is no proper recognition has been given in the organization. So it's all human behavior. So here what is important is that we should be self-sustained. Okay, so we should know what exactly we are doing, and we should self appreciate ourselves. Okay, so here what is the solution part of it is that if you have accomplished some small things also, you should appreciate yourself. You should say yourself, yes, you have done a good, uh, today the day was much better, and today we have done this which we were not able to do for so many years. So that is how you appreciate yourself. You can reward yourself by going for a good lunch, or you can go for a good movie. You can make yourself rewarded for what you have done it, so that your motivation or the apparent conditioning stays on track, and you accomplish every task without any demotivation. The next one of learning theory, here one example that they have given. There is a mouse is there. Okay, so when there is a green light, if they touch uh, there is a lever, they will get a peanuts. Okay, and if they, when there is a red light, when they touch, they will get a small shock. Okay, so eventually the mouse will learn, only when the green light they will go and touch the lever, and they won't touch the lever when there is a red light. So this is how we can come to apparent behavior and their consequences. We can learn from a small experiment here. Social learning is another way of learning things. Okay, let us theoretically understand this. By observation learning, social learning theory emphasizes the ability of individual to learn by observing others. Important may include parent, teachers, peers, motion pictures, TV articles, boss, and others. So here, by when you socialize people, you tend to learn so many things. Okay, uh, once a great pediatrician and psychologist was giving an interview. I had a chance to listen to it. Then that day I understand one very basic phenomena of social learning, is that when your children's, quite a parent will complain that my child never take book, he will never learn, he will never sit, he will never write. This is a very common feedback or problem faced by parenting. Okay, so that person, what he said is that you don't instruct your students to take your note, take your pen, sit, write the tables, write something, do something productive activity. All those things you cannot expect from the kids. So what you have to do as a parent is you should take a paper and pen and you start writing. So when you start writing, the child will sees you, observes you, and he will automatically, without your instruction, the child will take a piece of paper and start writing or doing some drawings, whatever he likes to. So this is a very classical example of social learning. So even my wife, uh, will when my wife sees someone cooking something, she will be easily able to reproduce it by herself the next time. So that is how, if you see it also, you can learn it. Okay. So here the social learning is that when you see someone, you can grasp those things and you can learn. So this is one of the very essential learning thing. One second, let me switch on the power. Okay. So today is still almost half an hour. We had a class. Let us have a little bit of interaction. Okay. So now tell me what you have learned by seeing others. Yes. Anyone interesting which you will never know knew about that particular thing? By seeing someone, you have learned it. By observing, you have learned that. I will tell one very interesting thing happened to me. Uh, I was very closely associated with my one of my colleague. So when after the college hours, we used to go for shopping or mall, wherever we like to. We used to visit some places. There what I seen my colleague is, he talks in a very dominating way. Okay. uh, for instance, normally people doesn't know, they're not good at their English level, right? So you should not go and talk to a person who is sitting in a cashier or a security man. He will not be able to revert back to you in a proper manner when you go and talk to him in English. But he will go and talk only in English, though he is very well aware of Tamil language. Then immediately that person, sir, you can park your car here. You can park. He'll immediately compromise, and whatever we say, he will agree to do. And what I able to understand such situation is that if we don't do that, many people, sir, no parking. You go out, you get lost. Many people, when we start simply speaking that manner, many people have turned to be in a very positive manner. So that is how I learned something. But and bargaining in another way, he talks, very as if he's just now arrived from United States. But what I can clearly see is that you can see there's a phenomena, behavior changing pattern take place when we behave in such a manner. So that is how so many. Then once I replicated the same thing with when I was with my family, when we were in a bakery shop. So my wife was wondering what happened to you. You were normal only. What suddenly you gone mad now? So I was just explaining. I have a one friend who does the same thing what I've done here. And after whenever you do that, that the opposite person will do whatever you ask. You ask him, give me a very big box to put a cake piece. That day we were buying a cake. Also someone's birthday was there, so we were buying cakes. All those things happened there. So here you can learn from others' behavior. So my question here was, can you say something which you have learned from your friends? Ma, is it my voice is audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So any experience such things happened? Okay. Any you have such experience?
We can take example of the grand elder persons who let's take 60 or 70 years old people, how they are uh, like timing themselves every day morning. We have to go for a walk, and they have to get up and get ready for it and go.
Okay.
So it's again coming through practice, right? Like
Manish Shankar, can you be a little bit louder? I think your voice is breaking.
so like going for a walk in the morning.
Others can hear him clearly. Is it my?
Yes, sir. We can
Sir,
hear it.
yes, sir. We can hear
Okay,
his voice.
going for a walk.
Like going for a walk early in the
Okay.
morning at a correct time, like let's take 6 to 7. This
Yes,
comes through regular practice.
you're able to hear him clearly. Others.
Yes, sir. We can
Yes,
hear his
audible.
voice. Audible only.
Okay. 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 I think there's a little bit network issue. Okay, we'll continue. Anyone have any other experience with you? Okay, now we will see social learning can take place in many ways. Okay, so modeling people acquire behavior by directly observing and intimating others. Many of behavior learned by watching the behavior of models such parents, teachers, film, etc. So that is what I told. So when you have modeling, the way we can easily grasp this. Here, as we started the session, when you admire something, okay, so the learning process has begun. Okay, now here what we can see is that the attentional process, retention process, motor reproduction, reinforcement process, symbolism, and self-control are the way you'll the way they are determined of the process of learning. Okay. One second. So here the fourth one, Terry says that cognitive learning. So cognitive learning is uh, altogether your mental process involving knowing and learning and understanding. So when you do mental work, for example, coding, writing a software, doing a coding work for a software, all, and if you learn how to do that, that is what we call it as cognitive learning. Okay. So what are the components of learning process? A person receives a variety of stimuli inputs. When a specific stimuli becomes associated with a specific response in a sufficient permanent manner. So here we know that the learning process is all about the permanent change in behavior. We call it as a learning. So here, once it is important to understand the role of various components of learning. So these components are driven. So we have some drive, cue, stimuli, response, reinforcement, and retention are the way the components of learning. So first one is driving component. Okay, here we will see that um, learning frequently occurs in the presence of driven any strong stimulus that impels the action. Without a drive, the learning does not take place, or at least it is not discriminable, because the drive arouses an individual and keeps him ready to respond. Thus, it is the basic of motivation. Motive differs from the drive mainly in that it is purposeful or directed towards a specific goal, whereas a drive refers to increased probability of activity without specifying the nature of the activity. Now, here what we are able to see is that when you have a drive, that is strong stimuli to do something, okay, automatically you will start doing that because you have a strong stimulus. Okay, and this is the way by which you can easily learn that particular skill or that particular knowledge. Okay, uh, the next what it says that drives are basically of two types: primary and psychology driven. Okay, and secondary or psychologically driven. These two category of driven often, I think my network is little bit compromised. One second, just give me a moment. Oh, let me change my network setting. One second. Now you're able to hear my voice, ma?
Yes, sir, better.
Okay. No, is it my voice is clear or it's breaking?
Better than earlier, sir. We can proceed.
Okay, just give me a moment. Let me actually today this is, I have a network. Okay. Now you're able to hear me? Is it my voice is audible
Yes,
now?
sir.
Okay.
Yes,
I
sir.
think now I've changed. I have changed my
It's
network
better
now.
now.
I think
Yes, sir. It's better.
okay, okay. So previously I was connected with some other network. Please let me know if my voice is not clear. I'm not using a Wi-Fi. I'm using only mobile data. So I want check whether my voice is clear. I have 2 to 3 connections because no, if the network is not good, let me know immediately so that I can switch over the networks. Okay. So here we what we saw till now. Let me do a very small recap because I don't think so. My voice was clear. Sorry for that. So today we started a session with what is a learning. So learning, if we say theoretically, it is permanent change in someone's behavior. We call it as learning. So learning is a permanent change in behavior. If if we learn something and we tend to forget, then we won't say it. It's a learning. Okay. So that is a point you have to understand. Okay. Now, the learning can be good, bad habits, all those things we have seen, and it will have a relatively permanent change in your behavior. And when you if you have learned that if such situation arises, you can easily see your behavior will be different from your previous behavior. That is what reinforce the learning process. So theoretical learning, we have 4 very basic theoretical learning: classical conditioning, operant conditioning, social learning, and cognitive learning. So classical conditioning is that you can learn something with when you associate it with to something, and psychologically you learn that. So here we saw a dog will salivate only when the meat is kept, but when you ring a bell when to salvate the dog, you can see that very soon the dog will learn that it will a bell will associate with the meat. Okay, so without keeping the meat, if you press the bell, the dog will start salivating. So that is how you learn it. Okay, so it's a classical conditioning. So classical conditioning, how we can use it for our own performance or increase our performance is that we can have some music, we can have some alarm, all those things we can have, and psychologically okay, we can train our brain to do one particular task so that psychologically we are prepared. So that is the one very classical condition have thought about that. So operant conditioning is another. When something good we do, we have to appreciate ourselves. We when it comes to a teamwork, you have to appreciate even you have done a good job. A single word will enough for operant conditioning. Here in operant conditioning we saw the example of rat, that the rat will pull the lever only when the green light is there, and when red light is there, when it pulls the lever, it gets a small shock, so it won't pull the lever in red light. So apparent learning condition we have learned from that. Social learning, when you're seeing others you can learn so many things. So but it is highly contagious. Okay, it is not that you learn only good things, obviously you can learn bad things also. So when you constantly practice for 21 days, then it will becomes habit. So you should be more, that's the reason, our parents should have told you don't associate with bad people because it's not good for you. So that is the social learning, because we'll tend to learn so many things by observing others. The last one theory says the cognitive learning. Cognitive learning is all about your mental work. Okay. Um, there are so many mental process or mental ability we need to do a particular task. We learn that a continuous practice. Okay, so it is training your mind to learn that particular, that all we categorize into a bunch of things, so called cognitive learning. So this is what we saw till now. Then we started with components of a learning process. Here we have a drive, and the second one is cue stimuli and generalization, and generalization. Next is it is response and reinforcement. Now this reinforcement have a subdivision called positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, and executions. So, and retention. Here we have five basic reinforcement thing. So we'll see one by one. Okay. So what we are seeing right now, what are the components of learning? So first we saw the drive. So drive is something is strong stimuli to do something. Okay, it motivate motives differs from the drive mainly in that it is purposeful or directed towards a specific goal. Now, to make this simple, okay, when you sometimes you have a very strong purpose, okay, or you have a goal which you want to attain it at any cost. In such case, you will put all your might, okay, to accomplish that particular task. That what we call is driving you to accomplish such things. Now, when you have such strong positive stimulus, uh, you will try to compromise other things and try to achieve your specific goal invariably if you're of compromising so many things. Okay, now this what we can understand in this situation is that you can take when we were doing our +2 exams. Okay, so +2 exams, you should all aware that when +2 exams are the sole determinant of your future. That's what has been we've been heard by our class teachers and our parents. So in that case, we have slopes such a way that we have we've been driven to accomplish very good score in our board exam, right? The drives are basically two types. Okay, primary and psychological drives, and secondary and psychological drives. These two category of drive often interact. Individual operate under many driven at the same time. To predict the behavior, it is necessary to establish which drives are stimulating the most. Okay, so here we are categorizing the drive in two things, that is primary and secondary. So these two drivens are the basically, this is all psychological part, how you've been driven. Okay, then cue stimuli is the cue stimuli are many objects exist in an environment such as perceived by the individuals. It is common to speak of cue stimuli simply as stimuli, or to use the term cues and stimuli interchangeably. Okay, the idea here is to discover the condition under which a stimulus will increase the probability of eliciting a specific response. This there may be two types of stimuli so far as their results in the terms of response are concerned: generalization and discrimination. So here we see what is generalization. Generalization occurs when a response is elicited by a simpler but new stimulus. If the two stimuli are exactly like, they will have the same probability of evoking a specific response, but the more dissimilarity the stimuli become, the lower will be the probability of revoking the same response. The principle of generalization, one second. The principle of generalization as an important implication of human learning. It makes possible stability in man's action according to the time. Because of this generalization, a person does not have a to completely relearn each of these new tasks or objective which consists of comforted him. It allows the organization member to adapt overall changes, conditions, and specific new or modified job. Now, here what were components of this learning, what we are seeing right now, you can just understand is driven. Okay, q stimuli have two things, is general and the another one is discriminative. Okay, so it's little bit theoretically. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. So next one is reinforcement. So here reinforcement have five things. Okay, the first one is positive reinforcement. So whenever you do good thing, you'll tend to do it again and again. So that is what we call it positive reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is an unpleasant event that precedes behavior and removes you're not happy with the reward. So basically, okay, or the you're not happy with the outcome. Okay, one second. Okay, the punishment obviously it's not in a positive manner. Okay, the extinction is may be defined as a losses of memory. Extension of a well-learned response is usually difficult to achieve because once something is learned, it is never truly unlearned. Extension merely means that the responses is question have been repeated, or it may be replaced by learning of incapability response. Thus, under repeated condition of non-reinforcement, there is a tendency for the conditioned response to decrease or disappear. Obviously, as I was talking about um, doing this Google form, and after the completion of the Google form, you will not able to do it again. Okay, so we call that extinction. Okay, so some learning we may tend to forget because of lack of reinforcement, or we will not doing it again. We don't have the practice of doing it again. So in a due course of time, we may decrease, or the learning totally get disappeared. Okay, but some things we will never forget. Okay, but even in the language, also you can have extension. Okay, so some of the language you will be able to talk, but if you're not talking that particular language for a quite long period of time, after some couple of years, if you want to talk to that language, you will face extremely difficult to talk because the extinction would have taken place. Okay, the fifth one is retention. The stability of learning and behavior over time is defined as retention, and converse with forgetting. Some of the learning is retained over a period of time, while others may be forgotten. The extension is a sustained form of forgetting. So retention and exhaustion are the two things can take place in a learning. The retention is the stability of learning and behavior over time, and defined as retention, and the converse is forgetting. Okay, or the real if you are able to retain something, we call retention. For example, learning a bicycle. Bicycle, if you have learned in a childhood, and if there will be around 15 to 20 years also, if you are not uh, driving or bicycling, but still you'll be able to retain it. Okay. Let us finish the attendance part. Okay. Um, shall we take the attendance? Which registration number starts, Ma?
Yes, sir.
Which number it starts with? Just give me a moment. Let me take the name list. Class rep, can you share me the name list, Ma?
Sure, I have WhatsApp you now. Send a layer.
No, not issue. I will take from ERP.
I just
now,
WhatsApp the PDF, sir, to you. That carries the list.
okay, WhatsApp.
Yeah.
But it is in PDF, no?
That carries the list of students in serial order. I'm not sure if there is anything else. Subhash, you have in Excel, is it? Subhash?
Yes, Ma. I got it. Okay, give your attendance. I'll call your registration number.
So you can call by name so that people can answer.
Okay. Actually, it starts from 20001. Sendil Kumar. Yes, correct.
Present, sir.
Okay. Then two Sabrish.
Sir, you can just tell the name itself. That will be enough.
Sabrish.
Present, sir, Sabarish.
Okay. Pon Sudhakar.
Pon Sudandra present, sir.
Sudhadharan. Neeraj
Present,
Joseph.
sir.
Ishwar. Subhash. Praveen Kumar. Anush.
Present, sir.
Am I able to hear my voice?
Sir, Dhanush present.
Okay. Raj, Praveen.
Sir, present, sir.
Okay.
Sir, present, sir.
Raj
Raj
Praveen is there?
present. Yes, sir, present.
Okay. Okay. Parthiban.
Parthiban present, sir.
Tamil Selvan.
Sir, Parthiban present, sir.
Santosh.
Sir, Raj
Tamil.
student present. Did you know? Did you note it, sir?
Okay, Parthiban is present. So,
Sir, Parthiban present, sir. Note பண்ணிட்டீங்களா?
okay, Raj Praveen is present. Santosh. Santoshini.
Present, sir. Present, sir.
Vinita. Okay. Okay. Actually, the problem here is, we are using this Microsoft thing. Microsoft team will demand a high quality of network. I think many of the students, though they are inside the class, they are not able to give their attendance. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So what I will do here is, I'll take a screenshot. So let me do afterwards.
Sir?
Yes, ma.
Yes, my name is not in the list, sir. Attendance list.
What's your number?
9264 last number.
9264.
64. My name is Harini.
Harini, 9264. Ma, you're able to see the screen, no?
Not, sir. It's not clear that much. I was using in the mobile, so that I can't able to see. Yeah.
They are seeing, sir. Just to scroll
Sir,
down.
my number is 39, sir. Last two numbers.
Is my name is there, sir?
You kindly tell your registration number, ma. Just tell me
Harini,
the
your
last four
registration
digit
number
number.
is 56.
56,
Harini,
Harini
your
G.
64,
registration,
sir.
your registration number is 56, right, Harini?
Yes, yes.
Harini G.
Then why creating confusion? Sir is taking in registration number order. Sir just
No,
now
no,
mentioned
I
is going to
was.
screenshot. What is 64?
Okay.
Okay. Harini, you need not to get panic, ma. Your number is there. See, you can see
Okay,
in
okay,
display. Okay. Your number is, registration number is 56. Harini
Yes,
G. And your date of birth is
past weeks
9th
I
February
was.
1998.
Yes. Past weeks I just attended the class, sir, because my phone is hanging, so I can't able to tell the attendance. That's why I
Okay, ma.
asked.
Okay, ma. Okay, no issues. If you're not in position to give your attendance, just put it here. No, we have this PT one group is there. If you
Yes,
have
sir.
some network issue or something, you just post it here so that I can find here, and after the class I'll just go through it and I will take necessary action before taking your attendance. Okay, because this attendance is very, very important. If you have
Yes,
less
sir.
than 75%, you not be in position to take your semester exam. Okay, so
Yes,
you should
sir.
be.
The
You should
past
not.
3 weeks, I can't able to tell the attendance because my phone is hanging, so I can't able to use the
Okay.
microphone.
Okay, no
That's why,
issues.
sir.
Okay, kindly take down my mobile number. Okay, I
Okay.
give to everyone here whoever are inside the classroom. You just take it down my number, and anything, if you have any problem, you just call me or text me in the WhatsApp. 9842782 143. Dr. Ramu was.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So this is my number. Kindly let me know if you have some problem, because I do understand we are using Microsoft Teams and you should have very good network quality to. Okay, so shall we continue? I think I can take the screenshot. One second, give me a second. Okay, we will continue. So here we saw reinforcement have basically 5 things: positive reinforcement, second negative reinforcement, punishment. So punishment is attempting to eliminate or weaken the undesirable behavior. It is used in two basics. One way is to punish a person to apply negative consequences, called punisher, falling under undesired behavior. The other way to punish a person is to be withhold a positive consequences following and undesirable behavior. Now, this punishment where we see is that we will see this quite often in our court of law. Okay, so here actually why we tend to do this is to correct someone's behavior. Okay, uh, some behavior is not good for the society. So we want to correct someone's behavior. Now there is a huge difference is there. Okay, that's the reason why punishment in court of law we are giving to a person to correct himself, but we cannot fully eliminate him or we cannot execute him. Okay, so we call that as a capital punishment. Okay, so many people will be wondering why country like in India we so much hesitate to give a capital punishment. Now that is a psychologically part if we consider this thing, this situation. Actually, kindly send the screenshot and send me the attendance. You are able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Last class, I think, who has sent me the attendance? My class, sir.
Maybe Senthil sir or Subhash sir.
Okay. Senthil sir, can you send me the attendance?
Subhash, you sent us that last week. I didn't send, sir.
Okay, so Subhash, who sent the attendance last class?
On screenshot we can send, sir. That will plan and send, sir. No problem.
Okay, just send, because many of the people are not responding, and if I mark them absent, then that will create some problem. So because they are attending the class, I don't want them to be marked absent. Okay. Okay. So very quickly, we'll do a recap till now what we saw. Okay. So today is all about learning. So are you able to see the screen? No.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here the definition of learning itself explains that it is a permanent change in your behavior. That is what we call as learning. And if you tend to forget something which you have learned, we won't consider that thing as a learned process. Okay. So acquiring a knowledge and experience, and which you can reproduce when a situation is demanding, or when you want to do something, something which is new, which you never knew before, we call it as learning. Okay. Okay. So learning process is relatively permanent. Okay. So we have four theories of learning: classical conditioning, operant conditioning, social learning, and cognitive learning. Then we move on to something called this social learning. This social learning have uh, uh, something called modeling. Okay, so models. No, in my classroom also, I used to say to my students that you should have a role model. Okay, when you have a role model, it is easy for us to to accomplish our goal, because it creates a, a, a navigation, okay, where you can just follow his footsteps, so that you can also be a successful person. Okay, let's assume, let's understand this with a practical example. Okay, let us, you want to become a regional manager or for a particular company. Okay, now obviously many great people will be able to get the bibliography or biography of that person. Okay, so you just go through it, read everything, whatever that particular person happened, and just put it, implement in your case. I think most of the people will be successful. Okay, so when you follow the footsteps of highly successful person, uh, it is easy for us to accomplish our goal. So we should always have a model, role model in front of us, so that we can easily replicate his behavior and his personality traits and his soft skills and hard skills, whatever the combinations required for accomplishing that particular dream which we have. That is very, very important. So this is modeling such things. So the initial modeling for the parents, for the children, will be their parents. So it is the duty of the parent to exhibit in a very positive manner in front of their. So it's a social responsibility too. So here how we do that, in the, that we started the session. I thought I explained that when you're getting influenced by any of anyone's behavior, or when you admire something, the learning process is already started, right? So this like in attention process, retention process, motor reproduction, reinforcement, symbolism, and self-control. So these are the ways it take place. Then the cognitive is another way of learning. Okay, so mental learning, for example, learning a Python machine learning by Python language is also a cognitive way of learning, where you train your mind for to do a particular task. Components of learning uh, process. Here we'll see the components. Here we have a driven. When you have a strong motive or strong stimuli to accomplish a goal, a specific goal, we call it a drive. Okay. And cue stimuli is environment or perceived by an individual. It is common to speak of cue stimuli simply as stimuli, or use the term to stimuli interchangeable. So here we probably using cue stimuli as interchangeable words to two words, cues and stimuli. Okay. The idea here is to discover the condition under which a stimulus will increase the probability of eliciting a specific response. There may be two types of stimuli so far as their results in terms of responses and concerned with general and generalization and discrimination. Now, this cue stimuli can be we can classify into two types. Okay, the two types are generalization cue stimuli and discrimination cue stimuli. Okay, so generalization is about uh, it is a more of psychological aspect. Okay, when you have one particular component dominating the other one, so you subside something and opt the other one. Okay. Let me give you an example for this general and discrimination stimuli in next class. Okay. Then the components what we are seeing is what are the components of learning. So driven is one. The cue stimuli we have general and discrimination, and after that we have the responses. This general this the generalization, discrimination, and this responses. These three I will give you example in next class. So reinforcement, again, for reinforcement we have 5 things: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, um, punishment, exertion, and retention. So these are the 5 basic reinforcement we have. So positive reinforcement, whenever you eat, good food. Okay. So there are a lot of chemical reaction take place in your brain. Okay. So dopamine, there are so many technical terms are associated with our brains. Okay. So we call them um, reward giving, what to say, it's reward giving enzymes will segregated in your brain. Okay, and dopamine, and there are so many other things are there. I will tell you that all technical terms I will let you know in next class. Okay, so that pleasure giving enzymes been created in our brain, which in turn will motivate you to do that particular thing again and again. Okay, that is what we call it as positive reinforcement. The second one is negative reinforcement. So negative reinforcement is all about not giving a good thing. Okay, the people will not be happy with that. Okay, so normally we won't do that. Okay, so negative reinforcement is unpleasant even that precedes a behavior. Okay, is removed, then the desired behavior echoes. So this procedure increase likelihood that the desired behavior will occur. So when you do a negative reinforcement, no, you don't want to do the thing again. So you want to stop that particular thing to done again. Okay. The punishment which we were talking in uh, before, uh, this is also the negative consequences. A punisher follows an undesirable behavior. So here that is what we were talking about, capital punishment. Remember. Then extension is that no, you will after you don't use a particular learning process, you will altogether you will forget that. Okay. So that is what we call as extension. And retention, you are able to remember it in spite of so many years. Example is good example is your bicycle. Okay. Then we have attitude and value by which we. Yes, ma. Anything? Someone have raised your hands. Ma, someone raised the hands. Ma, any doubt? Subhash, Vinita, and Karthikeyan, any doubt, ma? You have raised your hands.
That one is for attendance, sir. Earlier, you can continue.
Okay, attendance is what we will do is that let me take a screenshot, okay, and I'll check your name and I'll give you attendance. Don't worry about your attendance, okay. I'll see to that I don't miss out
Subhash
anyone's
already
name.
shared with you, sir. Subhash already
He has shared
shared.
me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let me download this and before giving you attendance, I will check it again and don't worry about it. So, yeah, I got it. So yes. Okay, before giving the attendance and I will surely take this. Now, let me start with attitude. Okay, the attitude and values are the, you know, if you put attitude into A as 1 and B as 2, the attitude, if you put it all the numbers together and you add it, attitude will get you the 100. Total sum will be 100. So that is the importance of attitude. Okay, so attitude will actually, you know, our last previous class also we saw that how your emotional intelligence are, you know, that is we saw this EQ and IQ, right? So your EQ, emotional question, is play about 80% success rate, and your intelligent question will play only 20 percentage of your success. So that is the important of your attitude. So attitude is how, you know, you take things, how you see things. Okay, so if you have seen many this aviation videos, the flight will have no angle of attack. That is the way the air will blow the flight. Okay, so while takeoff or landing, the angle of attack, what they will technically they will talk about. Here, what why I'm giving this example is that how you see things, how you see the things will have a dramatic effect on your overall performance. So you have to take things in a right positive manner so that the angle of attack is in a right manner. Though the flight will take off at somewhere the speed of 250 kilometer per hour, though it has a huge speed, but if the angle of attack is in a wrong manner, that's the reason for any flight they will configure the flight before the takeoff. Okay, so that is the point you need to understand here. So you have to see the things in a very exact way. It should have, you should have see it. So if you see it in a that is your attitude is been, you know, compromised, or there is a contamination in your attitude, it will strongly have impact on your future performance. this attitude and value will continue from next class. And uh, just one topic is there for the unit one. Only the first unit we lot of psychological aspects are there, so it's very difficult for us to understand, because psychology we don't study in any of our schooling and college, so the terms will be very new for us. But from the second unit onwards, I think things will go very smoothly. And I request all the people who are in this forum right now to interact and to exchange your experience, because even I want to hear from you. So the inputs, like brainstorming session, we say when we do a brainstorming session, uh, the the ideas and knowledge will be interchanged, so it will get multiplied. So I don't want we all have to work as a team where we interchange our knowledge for the development of overall our upcoming future. So uh, so the attendance part is done with that. So today's session, if you have any doubts, sir, can you explain any of those points again? It will be, I can do a small recap. Otherwise, we can wind up the class.
Also, you'll be sharing this PPT with us, right?
Okay, no, actually, what happened? I'm extremely sorry for that. Last two classes I told I'll be sharing, but I couldn't do that because unfortunately I was not able to create a classroom. Okay, so because I need to get some approval from the management to share all these things. So I got that. So last Friday only I got it. So what I will do, you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir. You can, or else what you can do
Yeah.
is you
So
can
what I will
put it in
do,
the drive and
I
give
will
us access.
No, what will happen if I put it in a WhatsApp? It will get after some time you're not able to retrieve the data. So what I will do, I will create a classroom right away, right now. Okay, and you can see in this Google
Okay.
Classroom, and uh, uh, I will put it this material here. Okay, and that will be a great idea for you guys to use this. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Sounds like a plan. Yeah.
Okay. So you just take I'll give you the codes for this one. So let me put it in the box so that you can immediately join this class. It will take few seconds to create the classroom. Just give me a moment. So this is the class code. You're able to see the screen, no?
Yes, sir.
You're able to, okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
So you just click this this link. You can join the. You're able
Can you
to
go to
see
the class
the
code again?
link.
The class code, the classroom code again. Can you show that?
Hare Krishna, you can just click the link and join the class.
Okay, sir.
So once you have joined the class, you will be able to see all the material on this. I can join the class. I can download this PowerPoint and just go through it. And any doubt you have, you can bring it to the next class. Okay. Now you're able to join the class, no? Any issue in that?
Yes, joined, sir.
Okay, you're able to join, no?
Yes, sir, joined already.
Okay, so it is uploading. Okay, so it will take some time. And once it gets uploaded, you can download this PowerPoint. So till now, whatever we have seen in this unit one, everything I have done in this PowerPoint. So you can just go through it. And anything, if you want to have more clarification or you need more notes, even that notes also I will share here in this platform. Okay, shall we wind up the class? Okay, shall we meet in next Sunday, ma?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Have
Thank
a
you.
nice weekend. Okay.